Hello, John.
No bottom.
So today we're going to talk about learner drivers. There was something there on the net that I seen. 27,000 people on learner permits for over 11 to 20 years, and they keep having this kind of renewing their learner permit forever. Okay, without sitting any test. Last year there was 6,000 people that didn't show up at all, and the Road Service Authority made 500,000 from those no-shows. So there's quite an incentive there for the Road Safety Authority to make money from no-shows. But so we'll talk about like why people don't show up, the difficulty in the driving test itself. It seems to be an impractical type of test, and if somebody is driving for 11 to 20 years, well, you, you could assume that they can drive perfectly. But I'm curious as to why the 27,000 are kind of refusing to sit the test. That suggests there's something medically wrong, or there's something mental health issues, probably. I don't know. And I think they need to find out what's going on.
Well, I'm doing the years. I do 2019, and there was 1,600 vehicles impounded by learner drivers were driving without somebody
Accompanying
with
them.
them by way of a driver. Now this question of the learner drivers, the amount that you mentioned there, 20 odd thousand or something like that, that are driving for a number of years. And now first thing about it is that it doesn't add up. The snag or the problem in this country that I experienced with my late wife, Lorna Mercer, she was a good driver and safe and all the rest of it. And she went for driving tests and then little technicalities that wouldn't count in the ordinary course of events. People take precautions for one reason or another, and they're entitled to do that. But with the driving test people, they seem to have their agenda seems to be to find any little pretext to fail the person. Now, that is not the way to do things. The first thing is to establish, can the person drive safely on the left hand side of the road as we do here, and are they able to sort of indicate when they're going around corners, and then perhaps then see that in a safe place that they can reverse, not this 3 point turns that they have them doing on various roads that they did have them doing. It needs to be sensible. Now, I have to say, in other countries, we're not talking about Britain. I don't pass any remark on what they do in any shape, way, or form. I'm talking about other countries, and particularly in the US, which is a lot of cars in the US. You see the highways and that packed with cars. Now, but the police do it there, and it's a question of, can the person drive? Can they reverse? Are they safe when they're driving? And that type of thing. And once that they're satisfied that they have the ordinary wherewithal to drive in a safe manner, well, then they pass the test. So it's not all this rigmarole that we have here. Um, People here have to learn the rules of the road, and then when they lift up the bonnet to sort of see that they know where the oil is and where this, that, and the other is, which, of course, as with experience, you get to know anyway. But the ladies wouldn't be normally mechanical in that area, and rightly so, because it's usually the man or the husband or somebody like that that does that type of thing. They just drive, and my late wife, Laura Mitchell, was a pretty careful driver, but she eventually passed the test with a driver that had come down from Donegal to relieve the pressure in Dundalk. And she went for a test, and the biggest car that I had, a Sonata, a Hyundai Sonata at the time, and nice leather seats and all the rest of it. And she passed the test. So she got her driving license, and we had a small celebration. So now this question of what you mentioned, the number. Now, the first thing I'm going to start to say is these learner drivers, what nationality are they? A pound to a penny, you don't know.
I don't know, John Malone.
no. Well, there could be from other jurisdictions. In other words, there could be from all the immigrants that has come into this country, and they're driving, some of them driving taxis and so on and so forth, and their command of English would be Zich. And but they changed the regulations to make it easy for them to be able to do this job, even if their idea of the localities and that is very limited. And in the process, when they did that, people that had bought taxis at 80 or 1,000 or thereabouts, suddenly the money that they forked out was vanished because of what they did, the deregulation. I think it was the Fianna Fáil government. So these are all factors. Now, the business of the learner drivers, quite frankly, if you ask me, I would say 3/4 of them are from other jurisdictions, because Irish people generally go for the test. My late wife did, and others that I know did as well. So it's very hard to understand the question that you've just said there, that 28,000 or something have been driving without a proper driving license for a good number of years. I don't know how they can do that, but I know if there's ones from other jurisdictions driving, the first thing to talk about is racism and stuff
Yeah,
like
can
that.
I just interject, John Malone, for a moment? I just want to go
Yeah.
back to what you said there about taxis, okay? So there was a time before the taxis were deregulated in Ireland, there was 4,000 taxis, I think, in Dublin or something. They were the kind of figures, okay? And you could never get a taxi. I remember, if you remember in the old days, there was a queue probably from about 10 people to 100 people on O'Connell Street at the statue, the holy statue across the road from the Royal Dublin is where they used to be. And there used to be two lines of people who used to queue for a taxi in the cold, the bitter cold. And in the Christmas time, you could be waiting a day for a taxi. Okay, that's the first thing. They were deregulated, okay, and they introduced, there must be, I think there's 14,000 taxis, maybe something like that now, I don't know, maybe there's more. But anyway, the thing is, if deregulation was a good thing, it's a very strict test. They have to, they're guard vetted, the whole lot goes on. That whole industry is very, very safe. But you have raised a very, very good point, and that is about, is there a difference between, say, a foreign person taking a test and an Irish person taking a test? And I would say there probably is, and that it's easier for the foreign person to pass. And I tell you why, because I know a woman, she's from a foreign country, and she'd kill you on the road, and she passed her test. She's been in several crashes, okay? And she told me she passed her test on the second attempt, and I went, how? I was absolutely dumbfounded that she could pass, because I got into the car with her. She asked me to help her, to pass the test. I got into the car once and I never got into it again. I can tell you.
Well, you see, some people are safe, and when they, because I actually give my late wife, I gave her a chance to drive and all the rest of it, and I used to sort of have her in a place that was plenty of space and there wasn't other traffic, and then to go on herself as well, after giving her all the wherewithal, and gradually she was good, because it's you give them the confidence to be able to do it themselves, having struggle and that, and there was often many a little minor altercation because of this situation, but good patience, shall we say, and persisted, and so then she did do a few driving tests with official people and that. And of course, they have an agenda as well to kind of keep them going as long as they can, yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And but she was a good driver in the wind up, and a safe driver and all the rest of it. And now, having said that, she had a little accident one time in Navan, and it cost me a few quid. But suffice to say that it could happen. The bishop, as I used to say. So that's what
Until Bishop.
she hit another car, and I think it cost me 3,000.
Yeah.
But this is life. You go on, but she learned a lesson from that. And That, but it was in a different car. So anyway, she did pass her test, and she was a good driver. She used to drive me if I happened to have a drink or two. Well, then she was safe because she didn't drink, only had a glass of stout at night time, which she was in bed just had her sleep. So, but the business of the people going around with for a number of years, but I mentioned about 2019, 1,600 cars were impounded because had the Gardaí had more authority, and so they were taken off the learner drivers, and I don't know if they ever got them back. They were impounded, so we don't know. I don't know the details of that, whether they got them back or not, because when they're impounded, then that's it. Now the question of the ones going around without a driving license for X number of years, I'm pretty sure they're not Irish,
Okay.
because it'd be a very stupid thing to do for an Irish person to do that. And you mentioned the driving test. It could be easier for all these ones coming from other jurisdictions, but they don't have the same respect for the rules and regulations that we have here. They're used to sort of doing whatever they do where they come from, because you have to fight for anything, the simplest thing. And they're inclined to do the same racket here, and spend as little as you can. So this question of the amount of ones with learner drivers, we need to get the figures as to know what they are. But with the agenda that this government has, you won't get the real figures. You'll just get this broad number. Where
Yeah.
did you get that number, Oliver, of the 28,000?
27,000. It's in all. If you go to any media organization, there it's they publish them. They're all
Right.
proper stats. Now the thing about it is, I would say, look, we are a country where there's a lot of people have anxiety. There's a lot of people who have depression. There's a lot of people who have phobias of different sorts. I do know a woman who gave up trying to get the driving tests because she had phobias about people being in the car with her. Okay, so there's all these things going on, and it would be interesting to see the breakdown of the 27,000 people. As you say, some of them could be foreign people, and they have maybe difficult language issues or whatever issues they have.
Very
But
much, I think so. But you see, they're very strong when they're doing something that's against our Irish heritage, and the Irish nuns and priests that did such sterling service, giving an education to people who are practically illiterate. They're
no,
getting thanks for what they did. They're not getting thanks. They're getting abuse from
I'm
this
going
crowd.
to throw something very, very creative into the works now, John Malone, and you're going to like this, right? Okay. So what I have noticed is that people who drive in the country, because I have a kind of a Kerry Dublin background, right? Okay, half and half.
Yeah,
I have noticed that people in the country and people in the city drive very differently, and there's a lot of road fatalities in the countryside, okay? And there's a reason for it, and here's the reason. So when you drive in Dublin, okay, you're obviously driving slower, and you have several obstacles if you're going to work. No matter where you go in Dublin, you have your ramps, you have your roundabouts, you have your traffic lights, you have your pedestrians, you have all kinds of obstacles in your way constantly, and then you have gridlock in the mornings, the whole lot. You constantly accept
and
in your head,
you have these bumps. You're going around bumps. I don't know
John
how anybody
Malone,
can live in Dublin.
please do not interject until I'm finished. I'm only joking with you. Okay, but the thing about it is anyway, okay. So you have all these obstacles. You accept that you can't speed in the city. I've noticed spending some time in Kerry that what people do is everywhere is say 5 kilometers away or 10 kilometers away, and they put the boot down and they break the speed limit. Kerry drivers at the moment, it's like being in some mad country. I won't say the country, but anyway, but it's like being in a mad country where people have no they don't care about the road laws. And it's so I think there needs to be a different kind of approach to country driving, that they need to kind of have these kind of obstacles in their heads that you do have to slow down. that the road, if it is 10 kilometers, that you have to go to the shop, or 5 kilometers, that there's some little breaks there to make them. I don't know how you do it, how you'd implement it, but I do know in Dublin that we've loads of obstacles in our way, and there's lots of people who don't speed as a result. Now, what do you think of that?
That's right. Well, you see, you have traffic, and so you can't go at any speed because there's nothing but traffic, morning, noon, and night. How anybody can live in Dublin is a mystery to me, or any city, because it's gridlock, and it's traffic and bumps, and these bumps in the road where that slow it down in every place. Well, perhaps in the country they need to do something like that, because you're quite right. And in the country they do drive too fast. I see it myself, and not alone cars driving fast, but the worst thing is lorries driving fast. They
Yeah,
couldn't slow down, and they do drive fast, and it's a kind of a. I just sort of say to myself, you mentioned that there was 600 and odd Gardaí on the traffic business. If there is, I never come across them. If I did, it was only maybe once. I didn't come across them, so
it's a
not
good
that I'm,
point.
but I know I do driving. So they do drive too fast. And when you're on the motorway, you can go at a good speed, but not on the country roads where there's turns, and if they're going too fast, they can stray over to the other side and cause a serious accident. So that's why you have these fatalities. And as you rightly say, mostly in the country because of speed. So you can't get through to these individuals. So the only way to do it is to have bumps on the road, or these slow down sort of things, that they can't just go at the speed. And certainly you need them outside every town, and including the town that I'm living in Oldcastle, County Meath, because they definitely go too fast. Even on the road that I'm on, which is nearly only one way, you can't have two cars in it. But I see them, they go far too fast. In the morning, you want to, they're flying, and like a pedestrian would be at risk because the pedestrians walk here.
There was a
And
kind of a there was a kind of a tradition down the country where people, when they come to a grotto, they'd slow down, as a matter of respect. But nowadays they'd run over the grotto. They're so disrespectful.
exactly. So they're not practicing anything and respect. You see, the word respect for other people on the road, including pedestrians, because they're at risk. Some of them have been killed when they're walking,
Hmm.
and because of the speed. If you're on the country road, it doesn't matter that the local authority says 80. It's only fit for about 40, and I mean kilometres.
Yeah.
Because at this road that I'm on, they shouldn't be going at any kind of speed. And yet you get vans coming down that don't live in the road in anywhere next or near it. They're coming down here, and they're like in a hurry. I nearly was going out there one morning at 11 o'clock, and because there's a fella flying, and I look, and when I go, there's a few turns here as I go to the left, and because he reversed, and he was a foreign chap. He apologised profusely. At 11 o'clock, he said he was late for work. I said, "You're going too fast." I said, "You'll kill somebody with that speed. You better just slow down and go some other way. Don't come down this road. There's pedestrians on it." I don't know how you didn't crash into me.
Now, you made a very
Lucky
good
enough.
point there. You made a very good point there about um, the Gardaí, that you don't see them on the road, because I can tell you that I have been to Kerry, up and down to Kerry quite a few times over the years, and I probably maybe, God, I could do 10 trips and I wouldn't see a guard all the way to Kerry.
You are, you see. So, and likewise, but you might come across just at the edge of the motorway is a speed van, or whatever they call them. I believe they're the franchise it's English crowd that has it, which is another example of the way that this government has handed everything over to other people, including Air, French fella that owns it. And so that's no way to run a country. But the business of the speed in the country, it have to be addressed. And one way of doing it is to have these things that you have in Dublin everywhere, when I'm going to visit you in Palmerstown, I'm going over more bumps than I can than I could shake a stick at. Every few yards is a blinking bump. So you're up to daisy and that kind of thing. So it did need a bit of that in the country, and to slow these fellas down, and not in so far that they can speed, because it's the speed that's causing the accidents. A person going slow or going having regard for the conditions, where there's bends and all the rest of it. You want to just take account of that. It doesn't matter if it says 80 on the speedometer. They'd want to re-examine all those things and put a proper speed there and people to do it. Coming into Oldcastle, there's no bumps, and you see cars, because I come down and then I turn, and you want to see the speed of them. You want eyes in the back of your head going out to try and anticipate, because you could go out and before you can say Jack Robinson, there's a fellow coming the other way and he's going too fast and he's nearly on top of you, and yet
Yeah.
he wasn't visible when you were going out. You
Yeah,
see,
look, the thing is,
so they're coming into a town fast, so you need the bumps and you need that type of thing, and you need something like, for example, on the start of this road it says walkers take care, but do they take care? You must be joking. They do not, and so my advice is to have the bumps and to sort of have signs that indicate that you don't go more than that speed, and have bumps even on the like of this road, because it's the only way to slow them down.
it is. Well, I wouldn't agree now with putting bumps everywhere, but I can tell you that if you're driving 80 kilometers in Kerry, and if there's somebody, it doesn't matter what age they are, it's all ages. And if you're driving within your limit, I always try to drive within the limit because I don't want the idea of a ticket coming on the post and penalty points and the whole lot. Okay, but I think
Exactly.
like you could have a 70-year-old woman behind you and she's hooting at you that you're doing your you're doing your 80 and she wants to do 120.
Well, you see, there you are. Well, I wouldn't see too many of them. The women are normally a bit more careful. It's younger drivers that have this lack of respect and that type of thing. And don't forget, when I was young, it was all bicycles. There was man that there was cars, but not everybody had a car naturally, and so bicycles. And but now there's often houses where there's two or three cars, and so there's more cars than you could shake a stick at. So having regard for that, there, that's in Dublin, but also in the country. And so I think some sort of speed ramps need to be introduced to slow them down, because they won't slow down unless that kind of thing is done. And they have, the way that they try to slow them down is having these vans to try and detect them. But people often warn you that they're there, and they're stuck in somewhere where they can kind of hopefully get whatever revenue that they think they're going to get from all these summerses or whatever it is. Thank God I haven't got any. But I think there has to be methods to slow them down in the country, because that's where you have most of the accidents. And oftentimes a few people are killed, not just one.
I was coming out of the bank the other day, and we were talking about the driving test there, and the practicalities and the impracticalities of driving tests also. So I was coming out anyway. There was a woman who had an N plate, novice. That means she has a degree of competence. Okay, that she's passed
That's
her
right.
driving test and the whole lot. Okay,
That's
so
right. And they
so
give them a
sure she parked her car at such a tight squeeze into my driver's door. So she had parked or reversed her car in. I came out. She'd gone into the bank. I seen her go into the bank, go over to my car, and they couldn't get into my car. And I had to wait till she came out. So I went into the bank, couldn't find her.
yeah.
And people, like, one thing you don't learn in the driving test is how to park your car properly. So a lot of
Well,
people
you
don't.
used to, and park with safety. Now, myself, I generally, you know, I park in such a way that I'm not I can get out a park in, I would say, the middle somewhere that I can drive out. I don't generally reverse in because this is for security. When your car is facing the wall and you're driven in, you're not facing out. You're driving in. You have more control, and it's less likely that anyone can steal it, no matter what they have, because reversing out is a different kettle of fish.
That's right.
Do you see where I'm coming from? This is a little precaution that one takes. So I drive in. If I'm somewhere, say in a car park with a supermarket, I'd be driving in towards the wall. There's often plenty of room to reverse out, and that you're not going to be, in a situation where there's too many people. In Dublin, no matter where you go, there's just too many people here, there, and yonder. But in places where you park in car parks or supermarkets, I generally face into the wall unless I'm in a place that I can drive out. But in other places where there's like a Dublin, it'll be into the wall I'll go because it's less likely that they can steal. That's a little tip.
Oh, very good. So there you go. It'd be interesting to hear the viewers' comments about this. See what their experience is.
Yeah. Well, as I say, in 2019, the Guardian pounded. They got new rules and laws, and it's very hard for me to understand that there's 27,000 or thereabouts with learner permits for many years. It's very hard to figure that out. We assume those figures are correct.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not something pulled out of a hat.
That's why I'm
That it's
saying
actually correct. And
I think that these drivers that we're talking about are probably nervous people.
then they shouldn't be driving, because if you're suffering from that type of roads, the best thing you could do is
Stay at
get a
home, do
taxi
nothing, do
or
nothing.
something.
Yeah, no.
No.
I think, like, if somebody's nervous, there should be accommodations. I mean, they have accommodations for certain things, for certain disabilities. I'm not sure if they have one now for nervous drivers, but anyway.
Yeah, well, I doubt if the 27 are suffering from nervous is a nervous wrecks, because there's no point in driving a car if you have that kind of a handicap in your nature. You want
Yeah,
a bit of confidence and a bit of common sense, that scarce commodity, and don't take yourself too serious. No, but have respect for your other thing. And driver didn't care, depending on the conditions,
but I
and
tell you,
never be on top of a person.
I
I see
always,
cars from behind me, and they're too close.
I
I don't like them.
always, I always tell my
Pardon?
niece, I always tell my nieces and nephews that a car is something that can get you into serious trouble, because you got your tax, you got your insurance, you got your NCT, you got your rules of the road, and you got your maintenance. You got five major things when you're looking after a car. Okay. Um, it's a big responsibility with four wheels moving at 80 kilometers an hour.
Exactly, and as I say, irrespective of what the speed is, if it's in a country road where there's twists and turns and it's not as wide, some of the roads are wide, but in lots of places they're not wide. For example, I don't know how two lorries, if one is going different directions, how they're able to maneuver, because sometimes the road is not just wide enough for the two of them. One maybe has to stop and pull in such a way as to let the other fella pass. These factors, and when you're driving then on these roads, you got to drive very carefully, because you can't go fast, but some of them do go fast,
You
and
do.
this is where you have the fatal accidents. So I think they'd want to examine ways to deal with that. I know that we're bringing out something to have cars that they can't go beyond a certain speed, and that seems a very peculiar thing to do. But they should have some kind of barriers, or these bumps on the road that you have in Parma, in Castleknock and all over the place. You're just going over bumps the whole time. because to slow people down, especially in the suburbs. And that's a good thing because pedestrians to be there and cyclists, and they could be at risk. And so it slows you down, these bumps.
There you
And
go.
they need that in the country, I think, especially coming in towards the town. Maybe within, maybe outside the town, so as to slow down and not flying
That's it.
as they do.
As they do. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.